Putin announced today he has invited President Trump to visit him in Moscow. The move comes just 2 days after Trump postponed plans to have Putin come to Washington, and it follows their controversial summit in Helsinki earlier this month. At that meeting, Trump seemed to welcome Putin's offer to help U.S. investigators interrogate Russians accused of meddling in the U.S. election. But in exchange, Russia wanted assistance in its own probe into people it says committed crimes in Russia. And Putin singled out a man named Bill Browder. Browder is the founder and CEO of Hermitage Capital Management. He was the largest foreign investor in Russia until 2005. But Browder's offices in Russia were raided, and he says Russian officials stole a tax rebate worth $230 million. His lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, investigated and uncovered the fraud that pointed to high-level officials in the Russian government. His lawyer was then arrested and died in a Russian prison. Ever since, Browder has been leading an international campaign to expose corruption in Russia. Browder fought in his lawyer's name, Sergei Magnitsky, and the crown jewel of that fight is the Magnitsky Act, in the U.S., also passed in Canada, as well as several other countries. That act imposes sanctions on Russians involved in corruption and human rights abuses. But now, Bill Browder says the Russian government is opening a new investigation against him and various U.S. officials involved in the creation of the Magnitsky Act. Bill Browder joins me from an undisclosed location, one of the precautions he has been taking in light of Russia's, shall we say, interest in him. Bill Browder, welcome to you.
Great to be here.
What makes you think Russia is launching a new investigation into you?
Well, they announced it yesterday. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia announced that there's a new investigation into me based on Article 210 of the Russian Criminal Code, which is their sort of version of RICO, the racketeering law, claiming that I was running a criminal organization and claiming my criminal organization consisted of all these U.S. government officials who were involved in passing the Magnitsky Act. This is the third criminal case that, actually more than the third, but I've already been convicted twice in absentia in a Russian prison, in a Russian court, and sentenced to 18 years in Russian prison in the previous cases. They've also accused me of serial killing and various other things. And so it's not particularly shocking or new for them to make new criminal allegations against me. They kind of throw these things out like candy, but this is new information that came out yesterday.
What's prompting it, do you think?
Well, in this particular case, what's happened is that there's been this whole, the U.S. Has targeted 12 Russian officials in the GRU for hacking the DNC and manipulating the U.S. election. This happened on the Friday before the Monday of the Putin-Trump Helsinki Summit, and the Russians are always tit-for-tat type of people, so they decided to come up with a new case. I'm not even the important person in this new case because they've got so many cases against me, but they wanted to name a bunch of U.S. officials to make it commensurate with the fact that there's all these Russian officials that are being targeted by the U.S. And so they put these 11 U.S. current or former U.S. officials on their list, the Russians list, that they wanted handed over by Trump. And those people were all intimately involved in one way or another in the Magnitsky Act.
Okay. Is there a chance that this will go anywhere?
Well, it's interesting because Trump at the Helsinki Summit said he thinks that was an incredible offer that Putin was making. And then it took him 3 days before he rejected the proposal, which is quite extraordinary. And his rejection came within minutes before the U.S. Senate voted 98-0 to reject the proposal. So, I mean, it's not clear where Trump's mind is other than the fact that he took such a long time to reject it. But what is clear is that Putin is not going to give up on this idea. And the next time these two presidents meet, I guarantee you he'll bring it up again.
What are you afraid of? What could be done there? Because as I understand it, you're a British citizen now.
I am a British citizen. The way the Russians operate is they misuse and abuse Interpol. I've been put on the Interpol Red Notice system, which is their international arrest warrant system, 7 times. I was in Madrid on the 30th of May and was arrested on a Russian Interpol arrest warrant. Thankfully, I was released 2 hours later. But the Russians are trying to go to every country I travel to go to Interpol and to use all other international legal mechanisms to try to have me arrested and sent back to Russia. And if I am sent back to Russia, I will be killed.
Yeah. Are you afraid? I mean, we aren't even disclosing your location now. Why is that?
Well, it's one of the precautions that I take not to give the Russians advance notice or even notice where I've been or where I am, so that they've got to work harder if they want to track me down and do something bad to me.
Has there been any indication that they are following you or that they have tried to put you in harm's way?
Well, the Madrid situation, they had somehow had the intelligence, I don't know where it came from, that I was traveling to Madrid that day, and on that basis of that, they issued a Interpol arrest warrant, and on the basis of that, I was arrested. Thankfully, Interpol quickly resolved the situation, and I was released. But if I wasn't in a place with a clear rule of law, I could have easily been handed over to the Russians, and that would not be good.
When you talked about when these two presidents meet and that you believe your name and your situation and others who have helped you drive the Magnitsky Act forward are all at risk, what are you afraid will happen between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin when they meet?
Well, I don't know what Donald Trump is thinking. He's an impossible person to predict in all different aspects of his policy. But I know exactly what Vladimir Putin is thinking, and he's thinking that he really hates the Magnitsky Act. He hates it because the Magnitsky Act puts his personal fortune that he keeps in the West at risk, and he hates me for being the person who put the Magnitsky Act together and lobbied for it in the United States and Canada and Britain and elsewhere. And I know how determined he is, and so I don't know what he's going to ask Trump, and I don't know how Trump will respond, but the first go-round worked out pretty well for Putin in the sense that Trump even considered it for a few days. And so Putin is very persistent. As I mentioned, he's used Interpol 7 times to have me arrested. I can't imagine he's not going to go after me and the others again in the next chance he has with Trump.
Yeah, some people believe that the Russians will also go after you in terms of propaganda. There was a film that was made. Their argument is that you are the one who is guilty of tax evasion.
They've made that argument. They made arguments about me being a serial killer. Yeah. They made arguments about all sorts of stuff.
$400 million to Hillary Clinton's campaign, et cetera,
$400 million. All of those arguments have been debunked one after another after another. I've not evaded any taxes. I've not killed any people. I've not donated $400 million to Hillary Clinton. It's all been verified and certified by many different governments around the world. It's just what they do. That's how the Russians try to go after their enemies, is by just trying to shadow them or shower them with mud.
Okay, so what's the future for you? I mean, what's your next goal in this situation, Bill?
Well, I was very happy when Canada passed the Magnitsky Act. I was very happy when the UK did it and the US. And my goal is to get the Magnitsky Act passed in all civilized countries around the world. We currently have 7 countries that have Magnitsky Acts. I'm working on 8 more this year. And my hope is that this becomes the noose that tightens around the neck of corrupt regimes like Vladimir Putin's, and it creates real severe economic consequences for the individual human rights violators. What the Magnitsky Act does is it freezes the assets and bans the visas of individuals, government officials that are involved in human rights violation. And that's why Putin is so mad. How much evidence do you have that this act is actually tightening the noose, as you put it? Well, the best evidence I have is that Vladimir Putin can't stop talking about it. And he talked about it at Helsinki. He's talked about it last year after Canada passed the Magnitsky Act. He went into a 5-minute public tirade against me. He's talked about it on a number of other occasions. He's obsessed with the Magnitsky Act, and he's obsessed with me. And he wouldn't be obsessed if it was an innocuous piece of legislation. It hits him where it counts. Yeah, but has it hit? I mean, can you name people who have been hit by this particular act, or is it too new? No, we can absolutely name that. There are 50 people on the United States Magnitsky list. There are 30 Russians on the Canadian Magnitsky list. There's 49, I believe, on the Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian Magnitsky list. We can see their names, and they're not happy. And there are people who are very close to Vladimir Putin. And this is his Achilles heel.
All right. Bill Browder, critic of Vladimir Putin, driving force behind the Magnitsky Act, and author of Red Notice. That is that is an amazing book to read, Bill, I have to tell you. It read like a thriller. And it's shocking to see that it is claimed as, that it's true to life. It was really interesting. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.